Hi guys, this is Hirasaki. This story is all about what if Naruto casted Hiraishin as a combat tool. A few angry words from Neji lead to a great many changes. Hiashi-sama, Naruto bowed once more. I ask you to make a bargain with me. To be with the girl he loves, he makes a bet. The stakes? Only his future and his dream. Before we start, kindly like and subscribe to this channel and look over the description box for the author of this amazing storyline. Welcome aboard! Chapter 1, A Secret Revealed. The preliminaries to the Chunin exams. Neji and Hinata stood on the arena floor. Neji was enjoying the rare opportunity to openly humiliate a member of the main branch of his clan. As he began mocking her weaknesses, he was surprised to be interrupted by shouts from the balcony. Naruto was yelling at Hinata to stand up for herself. As he shouted, Neji saw the way she was looking up to the loudmouthed blonde runt. He smiled. So, the princess has feelings for the village pariah, does she? How perfect. Does he know about your feelings, Lady Hinata? What? Her eyes suddenly snapped back to him. From her reaction, it was only too plain she was even more nervous now than she had been. He sent her a cruel smirk. This would be an even better way to humiliate her and completely crush her will. He would make it clear to everyone just how pathetic and weak the main branch really was. Why don't you tell him what you really feel about him? Or perhaps I should. Neji, please don't. Hinata pleaded. Neji turned away from her to stare at the ridiculous orange-clad ninja who was still glaring down from the balcony. Hey loser! Neji shouted. Are you upset that I am about to beat up your girlfriend? Those words took Naruto totally by surprise, and his shock actually overtook his anger. What are you talking about? What, you didn't know that Lady Hinata has a crush on you? That she likes you? Hinata could feel her entire world crashing down around her. She had hoped to earn Naruto's respect and make him really see her. But now instead he was staring at her like she was some sort of pathetic stalker. Hinata, Naruto called out. Is that true? He had never really noticed her before, but he could see her now. She was standing there all alone, trying to be brave as Neji insulted her. He knew what that was like, to be mocked and treated like you were nothing. And as he looked at her, he suddenly realized that she was one of the very few people who had never looked at him with anger and never once said a cruel word to him. He looked down at the bomb still clutched in his fist. She barely knew him and he had just beaten her teammate, but she had still given him a gift. Despite everything he had tried to do for Sakura, she had rarely even given him a kind word. She's actually been nicer to me than Sakura-chan ever has. How did I never notice that? Hinata could not read his thoughts. All she could do was look at the expression on his face. She took the look of honest surprise and instead thought it was a look of embarrassment. She couldn't stand it and turned her eyes to the floor. She had dreamed of confessing her love to him someday. Now all her secret feelings and hopes were being made public in the cruelest way possible. Neji could see the obvious effect his words were having and was nowhere near done yet. Of course, even if she is foolish enough to have feelings for you, nothing could ever come of it. She is after all a princess, and what are you? Nothing but a piece of low-born trash masquerading as a ninja. What did you say? Naruto shrieked. Kakashi grabbed a hold of him and whispered in his ear. Take it easy, Naruto, don't let him provoke you. Kakashi knew just how hard Naruto struggled to gain respect, and how much he hated being treated this way. It's actually a shame because the two of you really make a good couple, you're very much alike. You're both born losers who will never amount to anything. You're both pitiful and weak and completely lacking in any of the characteristics of a real ninja. You're destined to be nothing but failures. Shut up! Naruto screamed at him. Who the hell are you to decide what someone can or can't be? Hinata can be anything she wants to be. She is brave and kind and strong, and I'm sure she'll be a great ninja. Hearing the boy, she cared about say those things. She gasped and looked back up at him. Naruto. And as for me, I'm going to be Hokage one day, so don't tell me I'm a loser. Neji laughed. If you really do believe that, then you're nothing but a self-deluded fool. Do you really believe that a worthless piece of garbage like you could ever be Hokage? Those few who become Hokage were born with that destiny. Your destiny is to be nothing but a weak failure. Neji, Hinata spoke. Neji turned and was surprised to see Hinata standing tall and facing him without any sign of nervousness. Instead, to his great surprise, he saw. Your heartbeat is rising, and from your stance it is very clear, he smirked. You are now extremely angry. Did my insults to your one true love upset you? You? She was angry. All the fear and nervousness of a moment ago was now forgotten. You can insult me if you need to, Neji, but don't insult Naruto-kun. I have been watching him for a long time now. I only wish I had even half the confidence he has always shown in himself. He has been mocked and hated by almost everyone, but he has never doubted himself for even a moment. He is the strongest person I know and a far greater ninja than you. She looked up to the balcony and directly at her crush. And when he is Hokage one day, I will be the first bow to him. She really meant it. It wasn't a joke. She really did believe that he would be Hokage one day. Except for Irika-sensei, she was the only one to ever say she really believed in him. And all of a sudden, the way she was looking at him, he began to get a warm feeling all over. You really think that fool is a better ninja than me? Neji shook his head. You really are deluded, Lady Hinata. But enough of this, he suddenly snapped down into a Juken fighting stance, his Byakugan already active. Withdraw from this match, Hinata, or I will be forced to hurt you. She did not activate her own Byakugan or go into a fighting stance. Instead, she just stood there with head held high, calmly facing him. For once she did not look the least bit shy or nervous. She looked like the heir to one of Konoha's great ninja clans. Kurenai saw the change and smiled proudly at her student. She really had grown. I could forgive you for anything you said or did to me, but I won't forgive the way you have insulted Naruto-kun. Hinata said defiantly. I am going to defeat you. Brave words, Neji mocked. Too bad you're too weak to do anything about them. Hey-8 coughed. If you do not intend to withdraw, then please, let's begin the actual match. Fine. Neji began to rush forward. Hinata made a single hand sign. Pain. All at once Neji felt as though his brain were being shredded. He grabbed his head and howled in agony. Hidden beneath his hiaite, his curse seal pulsed. Hinata only let it remain active for 5 seconds. But that was long enough to leave him lying on the arena floor quivering. She had never before used the seal and had never thought she would. But then she had never once thought she could feel so much sheer fury at someone. Everyone who had just witnessed the match was shocked. Shy quiet Hinata had just crushed the genius with a single move. Wow, what kind of jutsu was that? Naruto wondered. Man, I wouldn't want to go up against her. Hinata was turning out to be a total revelation. You wouldn't have to worry, Naruto. Kakashi informed him. She wouldn't be able to do that to you. She can only do that to clan members who wear a seal. Ha! As my youthful student Lee pointed out earlier, the Hyuga are divided into 2 branches, the main and the cadet. Guy began to explain as Naruto, Sakura, Lee, and Tenten all listened. The main branch provides leadership while the cadet is expected to carry out all orders. In order to enforce this separation as well as to seal the secrets of the Byakugan after death, all cadet branch members have a seal placed on their foreheads upon the age of 3. Any member of the main branch is able to activate the seal to inflict pain or even death. That's just awful. Sakura declared.
Guy-sensei, why did Neji never mention this before? Lee asked.
Yash, it is not something to take pride in. He did not want to admit that he could be so easily controlled or even killed. Down on the arena floor, Hay-8 confirmed that Neji could not continue the match. He did not seem injured but was barely conscious.
Winner, Hyuga Hinata.
Hinata slowly nodded and headed towards the stairs. There were no loud cheers as everyone, even Kurenai, was still stunned by what they had just seen. As she climbed the steps, her anger faded and she seemed to revert back to the shy, insecure little girl everyone was familiar with. She was dreading the fact that she was going to have to walk past Naruto to get to Kurenai and Shino. She could feel herself blush and her index fingers began pressing against each other. After everything Naruto had just seen and heard, she could only imagine what he must think of her.
Hinata?
Naruto called to her. She brought herself to a halt and gulped as she lifted her eyes to see he was looking at her.
Why, yes, Naruto-kun.
He gave her one of his big smiles and put his hands behind his head.
Do you want to get some ramen with me later, like a date?
Before his eyes she seemed to go 5 shades of red in the space of about 7 seconds. She did, however, manage to shout out the word, yes, just before fainting.
Chapter 2, Some Good Advice.
Before Hinata could hit the walkway, Kakashi caught her and gently laid her down.
He gave his blonde student a hidden smile. As subtle as ever, Naruto. Kurenai seemed to appear out of thin air. What happened here?
She was trying to sound stern, but she couldn't quite keep a tiny smile off her face. She already had a pretty good guess. Kakashi confirmed her suspicions.
Our young heartthrob here asked Hinata for a date. She managed to say yes before passing out.
I see. She crossed her arms over her chest and looked down at the boy with her red eyes.
Naruto. Naruto looked back up feeling a bit nervous. Yes, Kurenai-sensei?
Hinata is my student and I care very much about her well-being.
I trust you will treat her with respect and behave like a gentleman.
She was careful to keep her tone firm but neutral. She did not want Naruto to think she disapproved of him or was upset at the idea of his dating Hinata. She got the reaction she'd been aiming for as he shook his head violently.
I promise that I will never treat her any other way, Naruto declared. Kurenai smiled a bit and nodded.
Good, she glanced at her student who was coming around.
Are you all right, Hinata?
Hinata opened her eyes to see Kurenai, Kakashi, Naruto and Sakura all standing over her.
I am fine, sensei.
She quickly got to her feet.
Well then let's go rejoin Shino. Hinata nodded. She gave Naruto an embarrassed grin. Excuse me, Naruto-kun, I will see you later.
He gave her one of his big happy smiles.
See you later, Hinata-chan.
As she walked away, she nearly tripped over her own feet.
He called me Hinata-chan.
Naruto was feeling very happy about his upcoming date when he suddenly noticed Sakura glaring at him.
Oh, Sakura-chan. You're not mad at me for asking out Hinata-chan, are you?
She planted her fists on her hips and gave him a look he was very familiar with. It was one that said, "You're an idiot."
Baka. Why would I be upset by that?
I love Sasuke-kun. If this means you're finally going to stop asking me for dates, I'm relieved. Oh, Naruto was a little disappointed, but not surprised.
Then, why do you look like you're mad?
After everything they had been through together in the land of waves and forest of death, Sakura had gained some respect and even liking of her loud blonde teammate. But even after all this time, a large part of her still saw him as the dead last of their academy days, a boy who was completely ignorant of even the most basic social niceties. Listen, Naruto, I want to make sure that you treat Hinata really well on your date. The poor girl deserves to have you actually make an effort to please her. I mean, not only is she really nice, but she's had a crush on you since the first year of the academy. So, I want you to go out of your way for a change.
Wait a minute. Naruto gawked at her. What do you mean she's had a crush on me? Well, duh. The girl has always stared at you with this faraway look in her eyes. It was pretty obvious to everyone except you. Sakura told him. And she has been doing it pretty much from the time she met you. But that was 4 years ago. Sakura nodded. That's right, Hinata has been waiting for this for 4 years, so she deserves to have you make a real effort. Forehead is right. Ino wandered over to join the conversation. Not only has she waited since the academy for you, but she's probably the only girl in this whole village that would willingly go out with you. So, you better make this first date special. Sakura glared at her rival, even if she did agree with her. Stay out of this, Ino pig. Ino grinned. But forehead girl, I thought you wanted Naruto to get good dating advice. Listen, you bleach blonde pig eye. Hold it. Both girls stopped their argument and turned to an upset-looking Naruto. What? Sakura asked. You both knew that Hinata liked me this whole time? Ino laughed. Naruto, everyone knew. Then why didn't anyone ever tell me? Naruto didn't just sound upset, he really was upset. He had been so lonely for so long that the thought he might have had someone care for him and not even noticed hurt. Now both girls gave him the, "you're an idiot" look. Why would we have done that? Sakura asked. It was Hinata's business when and if she wanted to tell you how she felt. Ino shrugged. Besides, we all sort of hoped it was just a phase and that Hinata would snap out of it. But now since you are going on a date with her, we need to set some ground rules. Sakura informed him. Ground rules? Naruto didn't understand. Dating had rules? Your first date needs to be really special. Sakura told him in no uncertain terms. So, no orange. You've been wearing that stupid jumpsuit forever. Show Hinata you care and wear something different, something nice. But flowers, Ino rolled right over him. After 4 years the girl had better get some flowers. I know you don't have any taste, so just come by the flower shop and I'll have an arrangement that will be perfect. But what if? And no ramen. Sakura ordered. I know Ichiraka's is like your second home, but save it for your next date. Take her someplace fancy and spend a little money on her. Make the girl feel like she's worth it. Worth it? But I don't. And could you at least try and smell nice? Ino pointed out. Naruto stood there helplessly as he was bombarded by dating advice. At the far end of the arena, the third Hokage was watching the little scene play out as he puffed on his pipe. Along with everyone else, he'd heard Neji's verbal assault and the responses from Naruto and Hinata. He was disappointed that Neji still held so much resentment, though he had to admit given the boy's circumstances it was understandable. Sarutobi had then watched as Naruto said something that had caused Hinata to faint. And now both Ino and Sakura seemed to be taking turns berating him. He was too far away to hear what was being said, but he could guess. He looked over at Irika, who was standing close by and smiling fondly as he also watched. It seems out young Naruto is growing up. Irika nodded happily. Hi Hokage-sama. Sarutobi took another puff on his pipe. Though the fact the girl he cares for is the Hyuga heiress might be a problem. Through all of this a pair of medic Nins had been looking over Hyuga Neji. He had no obvious wounds that required medical treatment, so had not been taken to the medical station. Instead, the medic Nins had simply been there to make sure Neji really was unhurt. After about 10 minutes the Hyuga genius was able to climb to his feet. I am fine, he said angrily and waved the 2 medics away. Neji, there is no need to be hostile towards these men. Guy had also been on the arena floor to check on his student. They were only looking out for your well-being. I don't need anyone to look out for me. Despite his hard words, he stared about in confusion. What happened?
he said just quietly enough for his sensei to hear him.
What is the last thing you remember?
Pain, he answered.
I was about to attack Hinata when.
He stiffened as he realized what had happened.
She used the seal on me.
He glared at his teacher. That is completely outside the rules.
Actually, it's not.
I stated right at the beginning that all ninja techniques and weapons were allowed. While, what she used was certainly unusual, it was nevertheless within my guidelines.
Heiate informed him. Neji clenched his teeth to keep from screaming. Of course, the main house had won. Even when they were weak, they still won. They won because the game was rigged. What did it matter that he was a genius and that he never stopped pushing to develop his skills? What did it matter that Hinata was a pathetic nothing? His fate from the moment of his birth was to be the slave of the main branch. That was his destiny, and no matter how he fought against it, he was doomed to fail. Guy could see the anger boiling within his young student.
Neji, if you wish, I will protest to the Hokage.
What good would that do? He snapped. Do you really think the Hokage would go against the wishes of Hiashi?
He took a deep breath and struggled to bring himself back under control.
For a true ninja, displays of childish anger were a disgrace.
I apologize, Sensei, he gave Guy a small bow. Let us return to the balcony and watch the remainder of the matches. Before jumping back up to the balcony, he looked to where Hinata was talking with Kurenai and where Naruto was talking to the two idiot Kunoichi. He would show them just how weak they were. He had no idea how or when, but he was going to show them they were nothing compared to him. Gaara's near killing of Lee changed the mood of all the participants and reminded them all that, romantic antic aside, they were still involved in a very dangerous business. When the preliminaries were finally completed, the 9 finalists were standing on the arena floor listening to the Hokage as he explained what would come next. The finals would involve another series of one-on-one battles to be held in a month's time. They would have that long to rest, heal up, train, and get some new jutsus and surprises ready. Now, before I let you go, there is one last piece of business to take care of.
The Hokage announced. Hey, come on. Naruto shouted. I need to start training now.
The Hokage smiled.
Don't be so impatient. There are slips of paper in the box Anko is holding. Each of you take one. Naruto reached in and pulled out a slip of paper with the number 1 on it. Hinata pulled out a slip that had the number 2.
Once they had all read out their numbers, the Hokage nodded.
Good, I will now reveal the match order for the tournament-style finals. It was then revealed that Shikamaru would face Dosu, with the winner then facing Temari. Shino would get Kankuro and the missing Sasuke would have to go up against Gaara.
And Naruto would have to fight Hinata. They both looked at each other, not really sure what to say.
Finally, Naruto took a deep breath and said what he felt he really needed to. So Hinata-chan, how about I pick you up tomorrow at 6 for our date? Chapter 3, Trust. Hinata had waited patiently by the door for his eventual return.
When Neji arrived, he spotted her and immediately tried to go in the other direction.
Neji, I want to apologize to you, Hinata said.
He froze, but refused to turn around to look at her.
An apology? For what would you need to apologize to me for, Lady Hinata?
She flinched slightly at his tone. His voice was perfectly measured, with just the slightest trace of contempt coloring his politeness. There was no anger in his voice, but Hinata knew it had to be there. That he could hide it, it so well scared her. Big brother Neji, I apologize for activating your seal and wounding you. I am truly sorry that I did that. Even though his back was turned, she gave him a low bow. Please forgive me.
Forgive you?
Now he did turn around to look at her.
Do you think a few words and an empty gesture are enough to make me forget everything that has been taken from me?
Now she could see his anger begin to poke through the calm facade he usually wore.
Neji, until today I have never done anything to deliberately hurt you.
I know what has been done to you and how you have suffered. I am very sorry for all of it.
But I can only apologize for what I have done. You know nothing about how I have suffered. How could you? To wear this damned seal? Do you live your life knowing that you are a slave?
You were born a princess with every advantage.
You know nothing of what it's like to suffer simply because of you are? That is where you are wrong, Neji. I have suffered because of who I am, she said quietly.
Neji had a fresh retort, but Hiashi came out of his study.
Hinata, I wish to speak with you.
She sighed. There was only one correct answer.
Yes, father.
She looked back to Neji.
Can we talk later?
Of course, he gave her a bow that seemed more than proper.
I am after all at your service.
The words and tone were perfect and Hiashi thought them properly respectful.
But Hinata knew better.
As she watched her cousin stride quickly away, she knew things were as bad as ever, maybe worse. She headed towards her father's study. There was nothing she could do right now. But she promised herself she would keep trying to fix things between them.
Iruka and Naruto were walking through the village together. Iruka was smiling at his favorite former student. Anything on your mind, Naruto? He asked innocently. You've been pretty quiet. Naruto looked up at his old teacher with an embarrassed grin. Iruka-sensei, if I ask you about something, will you promise not to laugh at me? Me?
You have my word, Naruto. Naruto began scratching the back of his head nervously.
Well,
I sort of have a date with Hinata-chan tomorrow.
Well, that's great.
He reached down and began rubbing the top of his head, messing up his hair.
It's about time you two got together.
Naruto hated when Iruka did that. It felt like he was being treated like a kid.
Hey! Iruka-sensei, did you know that Hinata liked me too? Iruka chuckled. Naruto, everyone in the class knew except for you. He gave his sensei a betrayed look. Then why didn't you tell me? Because it was never my secret to tell, it was Hinata's.
It was always her decision when or if to tell you what she felt.
After all, would you want me to talk about your secrets?
Naruto quickly shook his head.
No.
Then please extend the same courtesy to Hinata.
Iruka frowned a bit.
After all, Neji was not trying to be kind when he revealed her feelings. The reminder made Naruto want to chew nails. That guy was such a jerk. I mean, how could anyone be so cruel to Hinata?
Iruka sighed.
I'm not excusing what he did, Naruto, but keep in mind he has reasons for his resentment.
Yeah, I heard about that, but whatever the clan did to him, he shouldn't take it out on Hinata.
I'm not saying you're wrong, Naruto. I'm just saying there are real reasons why Neji feels so much resentment.
But anyway, what did you want to ask me about? Naruto looked embarrassed. Well, Sakura and Ino gave me all these different rules about how I should be on the date.
Pretty much they want me to be totally different from how I normally am.
Different how?
They want me to dress up, not eat ramen, eat slowly, say please and thank you a lot, bring flowers, and a whole lot of other stuff.
If Hinata likes me for who I am, why am I supposed to act so different just because we're on a date? Naruto complained. Iruka chuckled a bit at Naruto's vehemence.
Naruto, there's a difference between changing who you are and acting on your best behavior.
No one is telling you to be someone else, but don't you want to show Hinata you care?
The reason to dress up and bring flowers and make all the extra effort is in order to show the person that they matter to you and are worth that extra effort.
Does that make sense?
Naruto thought about it and slowly nodded. In his entire life he had never been invited to any sort of formal event. No one ever cared how he was dressed and only a few people, Sarutobi, Iruka, even cared how he behaved.
Mostly people just glared at him and wanted him to go away.
That was why when someone actually wanted to be with him, that person immediately became very precious. And if getting all dressed up and bringing her flowers and eating somewhere other than at Shirako's would make Hinata happy, then he would do it. Though there was a problem. Naruto looked down at the ground. Iruka-sensei? Yes, Naruto? I don't really know anything about what someone should wear on a date. He absolutely hated admitting that he needed help. And I'm not really welcome in most restaurants besides at Shiraku's. Could you? He cut off when he felt Iruka's hand gently fall on his shoulder. Naruto looked up to see a warm smile on his sensei's face. I'll tell you what, Naruto, the Hokage was kind enough to release me from my teaching duties for the rest of the day. If you don't mind putting off your visit to the hospital, I'll take you clothes shopping. I also have a friend that owns a little cafe where I am sure you and Hinata would be welcomed. I'll even take you to get some ramen after we're done and give you a few tips if you want. Thank you, sensei. A relieved and very happy Naruto blumped onto Iruka. Iruka noticed a few people staring as the boy clung to him, but he didn't care. So, you used the caged bird seal to defeat Neji? Hiashi asked. Yes, father. Hinata answered. Her father had called her in to relate everything that had happened during the second phase of the exams. She told him everything as accurately as she could, with the exception of Naruto's involvement. She did not mention Neji's insults or the fact that she had a date. She knew her father would not approve of her being involved with him. That left her with no choice but to keep everything about Naruto a secret for as long as she could. She stood there waiting for him to rebuke her as he always did. She was ashamed of what she had done to Neji, and she fully expected to be on the receiving end of his disapproval. Her father nodded. Well done, Hinata, you have brought glory to the Hyuga clan. I have? How was what I did to Neji glorious? Her father never praised her. And she had certainly not expected praise for what she had done. Victory is always glorious, Hinata. Her father stated. By reaching the finals of these exams at your age, you prove to all the strength of our clan. But I only did it by using the seal. She protested. There can't be any honor in that. Her father shook his head. Victory is victory, Hinata, no matter how it is achieved. I would have much preferred you to have defeated Neji in actual combat, but the important thing is that you did defeat him. Perhaps the manner of his defeat is even a blessing. Neji has been growing a bit arrogant due to his obvious skill. Perhaps this public humiliation will remind him of his proper place. Hinata felt a bit sick that this was the thing that had earned her father's approval. Hiashi looked at his daughter carefully. She seemed a bit more certain of herself than she had before. Perhaps she was finally developing the strength required to lead the Hyuga clan. Hinata, I have decided to take over your training for the next month. Not only the entire village but many important foreign lords and even the Kazekage will be attending the finals. I expect you to show all of them what it means to be of the Hyuga clan. She stood up straighter. Her father had stopped training her in favor of Hanabi a couple years ago. This was a chance for her to try and earn his respect. I promise to work very hard, father, and do my very best. He nodded, satisfied with her answer. I expect nothing less from you, Hinata. Naruto and Iruka were sitting at Ichiraku's with 5 shopping bags filled not only with clothing but some new ninja gear as well. Iruka had insisted on his getting not one but several new outfits as well as some nice sharp kunai and shuriken. Thank you so much, Iruka-sensei, but you didn't have to pay for everything. Iruka shook his head. I don't mind, Naruto, I'm very happy to help. But if you want to repay me, just tell me how your date goes and we'll call it even. A date? I looked over excitedly. Naruto, do you have a date? Naruto gave her a big cheesy grin and began rubbing the back of his head. Yeah, he admitted. That's wonderful. Who is it with? I asked.
This really amazing girl named Hinata.
She's part of the Hyuga clan, but she's really kind and sweet. She is just the nicest person in the whole world. Naruto found himself eager to tell people that such an amazing girl liked him. The truth was he would have liked to have climbed the Hokage monument and shouted it to the whole village.
"Aw, that is so sweet." I said happily.
Back in the kitchen, old man Tucci was also smiling.
"Good for you, Naruto. It's about time a girl appreciates what a good young man you are."
Naruto felt really happy to hear some of his precious people supporting him.
It was not something he was used to. "Naruto, there you are."
A familiar voice called out. Irika and Naruto turned on their stools to look as Kakashi and a guest entered the ramen stand. Seeing Kakashi's guest, Naruto immediately jumped off the stool and began pointing.
"Hey! What is that pervert doing here?"
"Pervert?" Kakashi looked confused.
"Ah, just a slight misunderstanding from before," Ebisu quickly put in. "You two have met?" Kakashi asked. "Well, that should make things easier." He looked at his student. "Listen, Naruto, I've been looking for you.
I need to discuss your training for the next month."
"Oh yeah.
I can't wait, a whole month of training with no dumb missions chasing that stupid cat."
"I want you to teach me a whole bunch of cool new jutsus, Kakashi-sensei." Irika was surprised to see how uncomfortable Naruto's eagerness seemed to make Kakashi.
Normally he would have expected a sensei to be thrilled to have a student so willing to train.
"Naruto, I'm afraid I won't be able to train you."
Naruto suddenly seemed like a balloon whose air had been let out.
"Huh?" Kakashi looked a bit embarrassed. "I'm afraid I've got other things going on and I wouldn't be able to give you my full attention." "What sort of things?" Irika demanded. "You are Naruto's Jonin sensei." "Sensei. What could possibly take priority over getting him ready to try and become a Chunin?" Kakashi really wished he hadn't run into Irika along with Naruto.
Irika was an old friend, and the way he was glaring was making this much harder than it should have been.
"It's true that I am Naruto's sensei, but he isn't my sole responsibility." With that statement, the truth struck home like a thunderbolt.
Naruto pointed an accusing hand at his sensei.
"Oh. This is about Sasuke, isn't it?
You're dumping me to only train him."
"It's not like that, Naruto." "Are you sure, Kakashi?" Irika stood up and stood right behind Naruto. "That is certainly how it sounds. You have 3 students, not just one. You cannot simply ignore the others to focus on a favorite. Kakashi, Naruto needs your help. How can you just ignore him?" I put in. Kakashi was feeling a bit ganged up on. "Now hold it, I'm not abandoning Naruto. I have found him an excellent instructor." "You mean the pervert?" "No way am I letting him train me." "How rude," Ebisu declared.
"I will have you know I am an elite instructor of the ninja arts and normally accept only the very best applicants. The only reason I have agreed to take you on is because it is a personal request from Kakashi."
"I don't care," Naruto shrieked. "I am not working with that pervert, no way, no how." Irika sighed and put a hand down on Naruto's shoulder.
The boy immediately looked up at him. "Actually, Naruto, Ebisu is an outstanding teacher and could probably teach you a lot."
Irika gave Kakashi a hard look. "If your sensei is going to refuse to help you, then I think you should give him a try." Naruto still looked upset but nodded. "All right, Irika-sensei, if you think so I'll give it a try." Kakashi was surprised to see how easily Irika was able to not only calm Naruto down but get him to agree. He noticed the way Naruto was looking at Irika. It was a look he had never seen on Naruto's face before. It was a look of complete and total trust. Naruto normally did not fully trust others, not even him or his teammates.
But it was quite clear that he had total trust that Irika would not betray him and would always look out for his best interests. To his surprise, Kakashi suddenly felt a small pang of jealousy. That was the sort of relationship he'd enjoyed with Minato-sensei, and he'd hoped to have it with his own students. He'd tried his hardest to develop that with Sasuke, but the boy was much too closed off emotionally to actually trust someone.
Sakura didn't seem interested in a relationship with anyone but Sasuke. And Naruto? The student who needed his help the most? Somehow, he always wound up an afterthought.
He'd assumed that given Naruto's past he would never be open to that sort of close relationship, but obviously he'd been wrong.
Have I really neglected the boy that much?
He was a bit ashamed when he admitted to himself that he had. And now he was going to neglect him for an entire month.
But what could he do? If Sasuke was going to have any chance of beating Gaara, he would need every possible minute of training.
I'll make it up to Naruto after the exams.
Well, I'm glad to see that settled. I'll see you later.
Kakashi disappeared in a swirl of wind and leaves.
Stupid, Naruto muttered beneath his breath. Irika could see how bitterly disappointed Naruto was to have Kakashi abandon him in favor of Sasuke.
Irika decided he would report this directly to the Hokage. No matter how special Sasuke might be, Kakashi owed more to his other students than to simply pawn them off to someone else.
So, teach me something, pervert. Naruto called out. How rude. Do you call Kakashi that? Ebisu demanded.
Sometimes, Naruto replied.
Irika coughed and Naruto glanced up to see a warning look. Fine, he muttered beneath his breath. So, are you going to teach me something, Ebisu-sensei?
Ebisu nodded, slightly relieved. I will teach you a great many things, starting with chakra control. Trust me, Naruto, if you listen to what I have to teach you and work hard, in a month's time you'll be a much stronger ninja than you are now. Now that sounded interesting. One thing that no one could ever say was that Uzumaki Naruto wasn't willing to train hard.
So, let's get started. Ebisu nodded.
Very well, it's getting late, but I suppose we can get a couple hours of practice in.
Follow me, we're going to the hot springs. Naruto slurped down the last of his ramen.
Irika promised to take care of the bill and bring his new clothes to his apartment.
Chapter 4, Getting Ready.
Of all the ninja in the village of Konoha, Ebisu, Ibiki, and Guy shared something in common. On the face of it, that statement might seem incredible. After all, it would be hard to imagine three more different leaf nines.
Ibiki was a sadist. Ebisu a pre. And Guy was, well, Guy.
On the surface it was hard to see what they shared beyond the fact they were ninja of the leaf. But if you could look underneath it suddenly became clear. They were each recognized as the best in their field and each of them loved what they did. Oh, other ninja enjoyed their work as well, but if they were honest all of them would admit that there was something else they preferred. For instance, though Sarutobi enjoyed certain aspects of being Hokage and took great pride in his duty, when he dreamed of being a painter and of being able to paint without anyone interrupting to inform him that Naruto was spraying graffiti on his face, again. Kakashi certainly enjoyed the excitement of being on a dangerous mission, and there was no rush to equal life and death combat. But given the choice he'd have preferred to be in a nice shady park somewhere with a brand new issue of Ika Ika in his greedy little hands.
Kurenai dreamed of being a farmer in a quiet village.
Asuma dreamed of making Shikamaru cry as he beat him for the 20th straight time playing Shugi. Nearly every ninja in the village had some hobby or pastime they enjoyed more than they did their work.
Except for Ebisu, Ibiki, and Guy.
Ibiki really was a sadist who enjoyed breaking an opponent's will with nothing more than words.
Guy was an artist whose art just happened to be taijutsu.
Anything that improved his skill or built up his strength and endurance he relished. And there was nothing in the world he liked better than to face a worthy adversary in a desperate battle.
And Ebisu? To put it simply, he loved to teach.
As a warrior or as a spy he was competent, but no more than that. But as an instructor in the ninja arts, he really was brilliant.
And what Ebisu liked best of all was to bring out the hidden potential of a student. And at the moment he was really enjoying himself. Naruto was not. "Hey you big pervert, what is the point to this?" Naruto shouted.
Ebisu sighed. Naruto seemed determined to ruin his good mood.
He took out some shuriken. "I've already told you, Naruto, this is to improve your chakra control." Ebisu threw one aimed straight at Naruto's belly. Ak! Ak! On pure instinct, the blonde ninja leapt to the right.
Ebisu timed it perfectly and snapped off a pair shuriken aimed at where his feet were about to land.
Naruto twisted in midair and yanked his feet up.
He shot out his hands and they both struck the water. For just a second, he thought he was going to plunge in. Both of his palms sank about wrist deep into the water but finally stopped. He was actually able to perform an impromptu cartwheel and end up back on his feet scowling at the man who seemed determined to either puncture him or drown him. Ebisu nodded and even allowed himself a small smile. Early this morning they had been at the hot springs and Naruto had still been struggling to just stand on the water without sinking. Now several hours later they were at Training Ground 14 standing on a large pond. Not only had Naruto learned how to walk on water, he was able to leap, dodge, roll, and even cartwheel if necessary. In one day he had figured out how to release a steady flow of chakra out of whatever part of his body came in contact with the water, and he was doing it on instinct, without conscious thought. Even skilled genin would normally need at least a few weeks to learn how to do this. To come this far in just one day. Ebisu shook his head. He was really starting to believe the reports that the boy had learned the Kagebushin no Jutsu in just a few hours. This boy had absolutely unbelievable potential, in his judgment at least as much as Uchiha Itachi or Hatake Kakashi had possessed as children. What had all those idiots at the academy been doing to let all this raw talent go to waste? They were probably all just as ignorant as I was, well except for Irika I suppose. He was willing to admit to himself that he had prejudged the boy as nothing more than a demon when they had first met. But Naruto had really surprised him by being a good role model for Konohamaru. And now he was surprising him yet again. Seeing how quickly Naruto could pick things up had left Ebisu shaking with excitement. This was the sort of opportunity that a teacher dreamed of. Even if Naruto could make things a bit difficult sometimes. "So, are you done trying to kill me yet?" Naruto demanded. Ebisu pushed his glasses back up to the bridge of his nose. Those strikes were all non-lethal and frankly a chunin would be expected to dodge them easily. Naruto grumbled a bit. "So, what now?" Ebisu glanced at his watch. "You said you wanted to finish by 5, it is 4:45 now. Why don't we go ahead and stop for the day? Meet me here again by 7 a.m. I have a great many things in mind for you and I don't want to waste any time." Naruto had a relieved grin on his face, the torture was finally over. "I'll see you tomorrow, you closet pervert." He waved a cheerful goodbye and leapt away. Ebisu shook his head. How rude. As Naruto was rushing over the rooftops his heart was pounding and there was a smile on his face. He was excited, not just about his date tonight, but about his training. The day had been long, tiring, and more than a little scary. But he had learned things. Alright, maybe he hadn't learned anything really interesting yet, but at least he wasn't stuck with a teacher who ignored all his pleas for training. He had never really had any teacher give him a lot of personal instruction. Most of his academy instructors had gone out of their way not to help him. Irika had been the very first to genuinely try and teach him, but he'd been in charge of 29 other students and just hadn't been able to give him that much personal time. Kakashi had still never given him any personal instruction. The one useful thing that Kakashi had taught him, tree walking, had been taught to the whole squad. Despite begging, pleading for knowledge, Kakashi had simply not been interested in teaching him. Though he did seem quite willing to teach Sasuke. Now suddenly, for the first time in his life, he had a teacher who was totally focused on him. Ebisu might be a pervert, and nowhere near as cool or tough as Kakashi, but at least he actually wanted to show him things.
Naruto suddenly wondered if maybe that was part of the problem.
Maybe Kakashi was just too cool to bother teaching anyone but the precious Uchiha.
Whereas the closet pervert was not cool at all and so didn't have a problem with it.
He didn't suppose it mattered, just so long as he had the chance to keep learning new things.
Hinata had her hands on her knees and was desperately trying to catch her breath. Her father had spent the last 8 hours trying to instruct her in a pair of special clan techniques. One an ultimate defense, the other what could be called an ultimate attack.
She was struggling with both, but she was determined to keep trying. By comparison, her father seemed hardly winded at all. He looked at her with a neutral expression. At least he was not openly displeased with her effort.
You will need to continue working very hard, Hinata.
You must have both of these techniques perfected by the time of the finals.
Yes, father, she got out between gasps.
We are done training for the day, we will commence again at 6 tomorrow.
Father, she took a deep gulp of air. May I leave the mansion to go visit my friend Sakura? He nodded. You are free to do as you like for the remainder of the day. But I expect you to be asleep in bed by 11.
Yes, father.
It was now a little after 5. She would need to take a quick shower and go over to Sakura's.
As she hurried up to her room and her private bath, her heart was still pounding. All she could think about was that she would soon be on a date with her precious Naruto-kun.
I see, Sarutobi said quietly.
I must confess I was unaware of Kakashi's training methods. So far as Naruto's concerned, there are no training methods.
That's the problem. Iruka spoke unhappily.
Kakashi was a friend, but he couldn't stand by and ignore the way he was shirking his responsibilities.
Sarutobi took a long puff on his pipe. Unfortunately, a great many members of the council would approve.
Many of them would be happy if Naruto got no significant training, just so long as Sasuke did.
Is that how you feel, Hokage-sama? Iruka asked.
No, of course not, however where Sasuke is concerned, I am required to tread carefully.
Anything that is seen as harming his chances in the upcoming finals would draw their immediate opposition. What will you do then, Hokage-sama? I think I will have a long talk with Kakashi. Hey Naruto. He had just arrived at his apartment. He was eager to take a shower and get dressed. He and Hinata had agreed to meet at the cafe. But he still needed to pick up the flowers too. Given all that, he was in a bit of a rush and hadn't noticed Kiba and Shino waiting outside his apartment building. Hearing Kiba call out to him, he came to a sudden stop. Hey guys, what are you doing here?
I'm sort of busy, I have a date with Hinata tonight.
Kiba rolled his eyes.
I know that, Baka, that's why we're here.
Say, you're not mad at me for kicking your ass, are you? Kiba and Akamaru both growled. You didn't kick my ass.
You just got lucky, I would take you apart if we fought again.
Naruto grinned. Sure. Shino decided to speak up in his normal placid tone. We have not come here to discuss the past.
Rather, my teammate and I are present to express our concern over potential inappropriate behavior in a social circumstance.
Ha! Kiba snorted.
We're here to let you know that if you do anything to break Hinata's heart, we're going to break your skull.
Akamaru barked loud agreement.
Hinata is a really good girl and we both care about her a lot.
So don't try anything with her or you'll regret it. Hey, I'm not that kind of guy.
Of course, I'm not going to hurt her.
Good, Kiba informed him.
After all, she's had a thing for you since the academy.
Indeed, Shino agreed. Ah, come on. You guys knew too? Kiba laughed. Everyone who wasn't a total baka knew. Thank you again for allowing me to come over. Hinata said. I can't lie to my father. This way I can honestly tell him I'm going out to see you. Sakura grinned. No problem, I'm more than happy to help. I mean, if things go well with you too, I'll finally have him not asking me for dates all the time. Hinata looked a bit embarrassed. Thank you for that too. Sakura looked a tad confused. What? Thank you for never accepting and going on a date with him. Sakura had a look of surprise on her face just before she burst out laughing. Yeah, like I'd ever put myself through that. Hinata looked unhappy. Sakura. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean I know you really like him, but come on. He's loud, annoying and dumb. I mean let's face it, he's no Sasuke. Hinata smiled a bit. You're right, he is not Sasuke. He is not cold, arrogant, and completely self-centered. Sakura gawked at her. She'd never heard any girl say anything negative about her precious Sasuke-kun. Don't insult Sasuke. Then don't insult Naruto. Hinata shot back. I am sick of hearing people say bad things about him, especially when it's people who should know better. Naruto is brave, kind, and he never ever gives up. He is very special and I am not going to let people say mean things about him. Sakura stared at the girl. Since that whole thing with Neji, it looked like shy little Hinata was finally learning to stand up to people. Well, I suppose it's only fair. I would stand for Sasuke if he was insulted. You're right, Hinata, Naruto is a good guy. Though he still doesn't compare to Sasuke-kun. Say, is that what you're wearing for your date? What's wrong with what I'm wearing? She had on her usual bulky beige jacket and dark pants. Well, this is your first date with the guy you have feelings for. Don't you think you should wear something special for the occasion? Hinata began to blush a bit and press her index fingers together. I wasn't really sure what to wear. Sakura grinned. Oh, I have the perfect thing. She hurried to her closet and pulled out a light blue dress. I think this will fit you. It was a very pretty dress and a modest one. It would show some of her shoulders and her legs below the knee. Even so, it would reveal a bit more than she was used to. I don't know. I guarantee that Naruto would love to see you in it. Would he? Do you really think so? Sakura nodded and handed the dress over. I know so. The little bell above the door jingled as it was opened. Welcome to the Yamanaka flower shop, Ino called out automatically. Hey Ino. Naruto replied. She actually needed a second to recognize him. Naruto. Is that you? He gave her a confused look. Who else would I be? I almost didn't recognize you. It was true, he looked completely different without the orange jumpsuit. He had on a long black leather jacket that went halfway down to his knees, a white shirt, and black pants. It was basic, but looked really good. He actually looks kind of hot. Ino was surprised at herself for thinking that, but it was true. Wow, Naruto, you clean up pretty good. He gave her an embarrassed grin and rubbed the back of his head. Thanks, so do you have my flowers? Right here. She handed him a small bouquet of red roses and white lilies. The lilies are Hinata's favorite and they symbolize purity and devotion. What about the roses, what do they symbolize? Ino gave him a sly smile. Love. He immediately looked nervous. Relax, Naruto, I guarantee you she won't take these flowers to mean you're pledging your love to her. Probably. He carefully nodded, they were just flowers. How much do I owe you? No charge, Ino said happily. But just think of it as my little way of cheering the two of you on. Thanks, Ino, that's really nice of you. So where are you taking her? She asked innocently. To a little place called Cafe Miroki. Oh, I've been there. It's very nice, I'm sure Hinata will love it. Thanks again, Ino. Naruto exited the shop. As soon as he was gone, she shouted. Mom! Can you cover the counter? There's somewhere I have to go. So where are the two of you going? Sakura asked offhandedly. We're meeting at Cafe Miruki. Well, I'm sure the two of you will have a great time. Thank you again, Sakura. Hinata hurried off, not wanting to be late. Almost as soon as she was gone, the phone rang. Hello, oh hey pig, yeah I know, Cafe Miruki. Sakura couldn't help but giggle. I'll meet you there. Chapter 5, First Date. The Cafe Miruki was a small outdoor restaurant that specialized in serving coffee and was known for its delicious baked goods. They also had a small menu of hot food as well. The cafe was a small one-story building with a large open area with 20 big round tables. Since coffee was an expensive import, it had a reputation for being both exclusive and rather expensive, which made it exactly the sort of place where Naruto had never been welcome. He was standing about half a block up from the cafe, nervously holding on to the flowers. He would so rather have been going to Ichiraku's for this. But if this was going to make Hinata happy, then he would do it. He just hoped Irika-sensei's friend wouldn't throw him out or, even worse, let him just sit there a couple hours without anyone bringing him food. He had experienced both before finally discovering a haven in Ichiraku's. Across the street from the cafe was a 3-story apartment building. From the roof it would provide a perfect view of the cafe. Hurry up, Ino pig. Sakura called as they both climbed up the side of the building. Relax forehead girl, Ino answered as they both reached the top, where they quickly realized they were not alone. Hey! What are you two doing here? Kiba and Shino turned to look at them from the roof's edge. We are present to maintain a watchful surveillance on our compatriot to ensure she does not suffer any needless mental anguish. Shino replied calmly. Ha! Sakura cleverly responded. Ino just blinked and looked lost. Kiba sighed. We're here to make sure Naruto doesn't try anything stupid. Oh, Sakura said. Well yeah, so are we. Ino smiled. Actually, we're sort of hoping he gives her a kiss or something. Forehead and I have a bet on how long she'd be unconscious. Are you being troublesome again, Ino? The four of them turned around as Shikamaru and Choji both climb over the other side and onto the roof. What are you two doing here? Sakura asked. I called and invited them to come watch. Ino stated. It's troublesome, Shikamaru gave a lazy shrug. But I figure it might be entertaining. Choji suddenly produced 3 large bags of chips. I brought snacks for everyone. So, in short order, the 6 of them were lined up at the roof's edge watching. When Naruto finally spotted her, he did a double take. It was the very first time he had ever seen Hinata in a dress. He had always sort of thought of her as this weirdo, sort of dark and plain and timid. But now he saw what an incredibly pretty girl she was. Along with the dress, she was also wearing lipstick and blush for the first time in her life, thanks to Sakura. His heartbeat began picking up as it really began to dawn on him that this pretty girl, who was maybe prettier than Sakura, liked him. He also felt the urge to kick himself for not realizing it sooner. When she'd turned the corner, she'd started looking about for Naruto. She was a bit worried when she didn't spot him. She looked over at a boy in a black leather jacket with some flowers, wondering if he might have seen someone in an orange jumpsuit. When she saw that the boy in the jacket holding flowers was actually Naruto, she nearly tripped over her own feet. She had never seen him in anything but that jumpsuit. She had always thought Naruto very cute. Seeing him dressed up, she thought he looked really, really hot. Of course, she immediately began to blush. Hinata slowly approached him until they were standing face to face. Both of them were sort of staring at each other, unsure of what to say.
Naruto opened his mouth to ask her if she was feeling sick. Her face was really red, but he quickly closed it.
One of the many ground rules Sakura and Ino had given him was not to ask her if she was feeling sick or comment if he saw her blush.
Desperate to say something, he suddenly stuck the out flowers.
"These are for you, Hinata-chan. You look really pretty," he said in a panicked rush. Thank you, Naruto-kun."
She took the flowers from him. "They're beautiful.
Lilies and roses, symbols of devotion and of love."
She was sure Naruto did not know their meaning, but was still very happy at his choice. Seeing her smile made him feel really good, and he relaxed just a little bit.
"I guess we should go ahead and get to the restaurant," he said. She nodded happily. He held out his arm the way Ino and Sakura had advised him. He really wanted to be a total gentleman. "May I have the honor of escorting the beautiful lady?" Beautiful? Beautiful? Did Naruto-kun really just say I was beautiful? Please, Kami, if this is a dream, don't ever let me wake up.
She put the flowers in her right hand, placed her left gently on his arm.
I would like that, Naruto-kun. Feeling very happy, but still nervous, he led them towards the cafe. Ah! Both Sakura and Ino said and began giggling.
Independent of each other, Kiba and Shikamaru both rolled their eyes. As they neared the cafe, a man in a dark gray suit grinned towards them. Where a left arm should have been, the sleeve was pinned up. The man looked like was in his 20s, and aside from the missing arm, seemed to be in good shape. He had dirty blonde hair and gold-colored eyes. At their approach, he gave them both a sweeping bow. Welcome, I am Miroki, and I am guessing you are Naruto, and this is your lovely date for the evening, Hinata. Naruto nodded, relieved that he was not going to be refused service in front of Hinata. Yeah, we are. Miruki nodded, still smiling. Come right this way, I have a table reserved for you. The restaurant was nearly full, and as the two of them followed Miruki, a number of people looked up from their meals to stare. Some of his looks were simply surprised or curious. More than a few were openly angry and upset. For Naruto, this was nothing new, and it barely registered with him. It didn't look like anyone was going to get up and say anything to them. So far as Naruto was concerned, it was enough. Hinata saw the glares as well. She definitely noticed them, and they upset her. She couldn't understand why people had to treat him this way. Yes, Naruto played pranks, and maybe he was a bit loud at times, but what had he ever done to deserve such looks? She wanted to shout at them to stop. Wanted to tell them that he was kind and brave and risked his life to protect others. She wanted to tell them that he deserved their respect and thanks, not their hatred. Naruto glanced over to her and saw how she was looking at some of the people in the restaurant. Naruto had always been a bit of an enigma in the fact that he could be so oblivious to some things, a young girl's feelings, while being very perceptive about others, the scars on Lee's hands. It's all right, Hinata-chan, he whispered to her. She looked over to him. What do you mean? I mean, it's all right if some people give me angry looks. I'm used to it. She shook her head. It's not all right, Naruto-kun. No one else is treated this way, and there's no reason you should be. Hearing the concern in her voice, he slowly gave her a warm smile. Thank you, Hinata-chan, it makes me really happy to know that you care. Of course, hearing the gentle tone of his voice, she blushed again. Here you are. Miruki had led them to a table near the back. It was next to only one other one, where 3 middle-aged civilians were sipping coffee and having cake. Your waitress will be with you in a moment. If you're interested, we have a really delicious chocolate pound cake. If you need anything at all, just let me know. Naruto nodded, truly grateful at the man's kindness. Thank you. Miruki departed and they sat down. The folks at the next table consisted of 2 men and 1 woman. The woman glanced over at them. Oh, what a beautiful bouquet, dear. She smiled at the young girl. Did he give that to you?
Hinata nodded excitedly. Yes, Naruto-kun did. He is very thoughtful and kind.
The woman smiled.
Well, I am sure he is dear. One of the men at the table spoke.
I am sure he is a fine gentleman and will treat you well.
Naruto nodded. I would never treat Hinata-chan any other way.
Their waitress came over and they ordered their meal as well as some chocolate cake for dessert.
Well, she hasn't passed out yet, so I guess it's going pretty good. Kiba admitted. You know, I have to admit I'm surprised. I've seen Naruto eat before.
Usually, he's like a hungry pig at a trough. He's actually showing some manners for a change.
She chuckled.
I guess he paid attention to all the advice we gave him.
Or maybe he just figured since he was with you eating like that would be appropriate. Ino teased. What? Sakura said angrily. Shikamaru opened his eyes. Thanks for ruining my nap. The meal went really well.
The food was excellent and the cake was absolutely to die for. Naruto got seconds and thirds. Though they had both started off a bit nervous, they had slowly relaxed and begun opening up in each other's company. They avoided painful subjects. Naruto didn't talk about growing up alone and despised, and Hinata avoided all mention of her family life. They actually got comfortable enough that Hinata was able to bring up a subject that had been weighing on her mind.
Naruto-kun, she asked. What are we going to do about fighting each other?
He looked over to her seriously.
We're going to do our very best, Hinata-chan.
He nervously reached across the table and took a hold of her hand.
Do I actually need to say that she turned as red as a tomato? I really like you, Hinata-chan, and to me you a very precious person.
But we are ninja and we have a duty to try our very best.
I fought Kiba as hard as I could and I don't have any bad feelings towards him.
Even though he was acting sort of tough the next time I saw him, I don't think he has any towards me either.
That's what we'll do, we'll fight as hard as we can, and when it's over no bad feelings. She nodded.
I agree with you, Naruto-kun, it's just, she hesitated.
What? I don't want to hurt you, she said miserably. I don't ever want to be someone who causes you any pain even if it's not intentional. He smiled. It's okay, Hinata-chan, he answered quietly. If anything happens it's fine because I know you didn't mean it.
We're ninja after all, you can't ever enter a fight without taking a chance.
And I want you to know that I would never deliberately hurt you either.
If something happens it happens, but we will fight clean and hard, no holding back.
Promise?
She looked in his eyes and knew he wanted her to agree to this.
I promise, Naruto-kun, no holding back.
The waitress came over with the bill.
Naruto took a look at it and went a bit pale.
It seemed like Gamakan was about to go on a serious diet. He was surprised when the bill was snatched out of his hand.
Sorry about that, Miruki tore it up.
It's a special policy of my restaurant. We never charge a couple on their first date.
He smiled. Really? That is so cool.
A relieved Naruto said.
Hinata nodded happily.
That's wonderful, I'm going to tell all my friends so they'll come here for their first dates.
Miruki's smile slipped a bit. Oh, that's great. Naruto got up from the table. Can I walk you home, Hinata-chan? Of course, Naruto-kun. Miruki was still standing there shaking his head after they'd gone.
He could just picture a stream of young teens coming to his restaurant all declaring they were on their first dates.
That was really nice of you, Miruki, I owe you one. One of the men at the next table said. Miruki looked over, yeah you do. But it's all right. They seemed like good kids.
At the table there were 3 puffs of smoke.
When the smoke cleared, Irika, Kurenai, and Asuma were sitting there grinning. Did you see how happy Hinata looked? Kurenai gushed.
The poor girl certainly deserves it.
Asuma laughed. I'm just surprised she didn't pass out.
Irika said nothing but just sat there content. He was happy to know that Naruto was finally with a girl who cared for him rather than chasing one who barely tolerated him. "I'm sorry, Naruto-kun," she looked embarrassed. "But I think it's best if we stop here. I should go the rest of the way on my own." They had gone to Sakura's to allow her to change back into her regular clothes and wipe off her makeup. They were about 5 blocks from the Hyuga mansion. Naruto nodded, he understood. "Did you have a good time, Hinata-chan?" "Oh yes. Thank you, Naruto-kun, it was wonderful." He looked at her a little nervously. "So, do you want to go out with me again?" "Yes." She almost shouted. He was actually relieved to get that answer. Deep down he always felt unworthy and worried that people would realize it and want nothing to do with him. "Since we both have to do a lot of training, how about we agree to meet outside Sakura's house each Sunday at 6 until the exams are over?" "All right," she said happily. "He wants to keep seeing me. Then I guess I'll see you Sunday." Without warning he reached out and gave her a hug. "Bye, Hinata-chan." He left feeling very happy. Hinata stood there in a daze as she watched him go. He had hugged her and he was going to see her again Sunday. She was very happy and had a huge smile on her face. Then she fainted. From a nearby rooftop they could see Hinata finally stir and get back up. 3 minutes and 20 seconds, Shikamaru called it. Ino grinned and held out her hand. "My time was closer, pay up forehead." "Whatever," Sakura grumbled as she handed over a 50 ryu note. Chapter 6, a very depressing conclusion. They had been training for 5 days, and while Naruto was willing to admit he'd learned a few things, he was still frustrated. Ebisu had no trouble reading the signs of frustration in his student. Not that he really needed to rely on signs when it came to Naruto. "The leaf exercise," Ebisu said. "Oh, come on." Naruto exploded. "Why do I have to do that again?" "Because it helps you refine your chakra control." Ebisu answered patiently. He had given him the exact same answer the last 20 times he'd complained. "I thought you were supposed to help me get ready for the finals." Ebisu nodded. "That is precisely what I am doing, Naruto. How is anything you've taught me supposed to help me in the finals?" "I mean, lifting a leaf using my chakra, yeah, that's real useful." "Making regular bush-ins?" "Well, I could have used that 6 months ago, but what good does it do me when I can make Kage bush-ins?" "Water walking might actually be useful someday, but unless we're having the finals on a lake it doesn't help me now." "So what good is all this supposed to do me?" Ebisu let out a sigh. "Tell me, Naruto, how does a baby learn to walk?" "Say what?" Naruto gawked at the man, wondering if he had somehow misheard. "How the heck should I know? I don't know anything about babies." "Think about it, Naruto, do you think a baby would be able to just immediately get up and begin walking?" Naruto frowned and gave it some thought. "I guess not. I suppose they'd have to start crawling first." Ebisu nodded. "That's correct. Before we walk, we have to crawl. That is essentially what you are doing right now. I know a number of advanced techniques that I can teach you, but they would be useless until you possess the necessary amount of chakra control." Ebisu decided not to mention the fact that after 6 months as an active genin he should already have had much better chakra control. What exactly did Kakashi teach this boy in all that time? With the words, advanced techniques, Naruto's interest was suddenly piqued. "Are these combat techniques you're going to show me?" "Oh yes. Yes, depending on your type I have a number of very effective jutsus that I can teach you." Naruto frowned. "What do you mean, my type?" "Well, every person's chakra has an affinity to one of the 5 elements. Certain rare individuals can have an affinity for 2 or more. Now once you have gained the necessary skill you will be able to work jutsus of all 5 elements, fire, water, earth, wind, and lightning."
However, you will always be able to do more with jutsus centered on your own element. Naruto looked confused. I don't get it. Well, maybe it would be easier for me to just show you. He began working some hand signs. Earth Dragon Missile. The ground immediately began to shake. Out of the ground about 50 feet away, what looked like a dragon made of dirt and rock leapt up about 20 feet into the air before crashing back down again. Whoa! Naruto said excitedly. Now watch carefully, Naruto. He performed some more hand signs. Water Dragon Missile. From out of the pond another dragon leapt into the air, this one noticeably larger. It rose perhaps 50 feet before crashing back down into the pond and sending out a huge spray. All right. Naruto cheered enthusiastically. He was already thinking about using these jutsus on a certain mopey dark-haired team. Now, did you notice any difference between the jutsus I just used? Well, yeah, the water one was a lot bigger. Ebisu nodded. That's right, but I used the same amount of chakra for both. You did? Then why was the other one so much bigger? Because I am a water type. That means I have a natural affinity for water jutsu. If I am using a water jutsu, I need only about half as much chakra to perform it as someone of a different type would. Alternately, I can use the same amount of chakra and get about twice as powerful an effect. One of the reasons the Uchiha were so feared was because they were such strong fire types. They were able to use fire jutsus at only a third or a fourth the normal cost of chakra. That meant in combat they were able to use 3 or 4 times as many fire jutsus or make them 3 or 4 times more powerful. A very useful advantage. Naruto nodded, his eyes glazing over. So does that mean I'll be able to do that too? Well, probably not to the same extent, but yes. Of course, that's only if you're a fire type. Ebisu explained. So how do I find out what type I am? Naruto asked excitedly. He was imagining himself spitting out massive fireballs the way he'd seen Sasuke do. There's a test, and I'll give it to you, but not until I think you're ready. Now the leaf exercise, please. Naruto groaned, but put a leaf in his hand. Using his chakra he made it slowly lift into the air. The following day Naruto arrived at training ground 14 right at 7 a.m. He and Ebisu had agreed to work 12 hours until 7 at night, with just a short lunch break. On Sundays they would knock off at 5 to let him get ready to see Hinata. Ebisu was already there waiting for him and ready to go. Naruto was enjoying the change of having a sensei actually show up on time. Ebisu motioned to him to come over and held a piece of blank paper. Good morning, Naruto. I hope you had a good night's sleep and a nice breakfast, because we will be very busy today. Hey, I'm ready. Naruto gave him an eager smile. He usually had plenty of energy and today was no exception. I am very happy to hear that, Naruto, because as of right now I will begin teaching you the jutsus and techniques that you will use in the finals. You mean no more wasting time with chakra control? Ebisu frowned a bit. Nothing we have done so far has been a waste, Naruto. We had to set the foundation before we could build on it. But yes, we are done focusing on chakra control, though we will continue to try and improve it. Cool. So, teach me something. Naruto was actually jumping up and down, he was so excited. Jutsus, jutsus, jutsus. The thought ran through his brain. This was what he'd been dying for since leaving the academy. The chance to finally learn some cool new jutsus that he could actually use in a fight. I will, but first I want you to take this and focus some of your chakra into it. He handed Naruto a slip of paper. What's this for? This is so we can find out what your elemental affinity is. This is a special paper made from trees that were grown using chakra. When you focus your chakra into that paper it will reveal your type. If you are a fire type the paper will burn, water it will get soaked, wind it will tear in half, lightning it will wrinkle, and if you are an earth type it will crumble away. Naruto excitedly focused his chakra into the paper. It immediately split in two. Well now, it looks like you're a wind type, that's interesting. Aw man, Naruto felt disappointed. I really wanted to be a fire type like team. Actually Naruto, being a wind type is far better. Ebisu said. You're just saying that. Ebisu shook his head.
No, there are more than a few fire types in Konoha.
But so far as I know there is only one other wind type.
That means you will have an automatic advantage as most people who face a Leaf Nin won't expect him to be using wind-based jutsus. Add to that wind jutsus are actually the most effective for long and medium range attacks. He gave Naruto a sly smile. I don't know as many wind jutsus as I do water or fire, but the ones I do know are very effective.
For instance, how would you like to be able to blow down a tree at 100 yards? Naruto's eyes grew into saucers. You can teach me that? Ebisu nodded.
I certainly can. Now listen closely, Naruto.
We only have a little over 3 weeks left before the finals. I am going to do everything I can to help you become a Chunin. Now because we have limited time, I need you to give me complete and total effort every minute we are training together. And to give you your best chance I want you to promise to keep everything I teach you secret until after the finals. And that's for everyone including your sensei, your friends, and Hinata. Naruto nodded his head vigorously. I'll do just as you say, sensei, and that's a promise. Alright, then let's get started. This will be your first wind-based jutsu. Naruto spent the rest of the day learning new attack jutsus and getting them down.
The two of them actually worked non-stop for 12 hours, somehow, they forgot about lunch.
That evening in Sarutobi's office Kakashi felt like he had been caught doing something wrong, though he wasn't sure what. Am I in trouble? Kakashi asked.
Sarutobi eyed him calmly from behind his desk. No, but I did think we should have a conversation about your students' training. Kakashi gave a big smile from beneath his mask. Oh, there's nothing to worry about there.
Sasuke is making great progress. I'll definitely have him ready for the finals. Sarutobi frowned hearing that answer.
Actually, I was referring to one of your other students, Naruto. Oh, I see, I take it this has to do with my decision to concentrate on training Sasuke while having Ebisu help Naruto.
Sarutobi nodded. Why are you only training Sasuke in preparation for the exams?
He felt like squirming under Sarutobi's calm stare.
There are 2 reasons really. Sasuke has been targeted by Orochimaru. I want to stay near him just in case there's another attempt to either kill or kidnap him. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow. You would still be present if you were training them both. Kakashi scratched the back of his neck. True, but having Naruto there might make the situation more dangerous and I wouldn't want him unnecessarily put in harm's way. Sarutobi just did not accept that. A ninja's life involved being in danger after all. If Kakashi were really that worried about another attempt he could have asked for additional ANBU support. Indeed, and what is your second reason? Well, having seen what Gaara did to Lee I decided Sasuke will need all my time in order to prepare for his match and to give him the best chance to win. He is a lot like me and I think I can get him ready, but only if I put everything into it. The truth is, if Naruto was there, it would take away time from Sasuke and the end result might be Sasuke's defeat or even his death. Sarutobi was forced to nod his agreement. It was not fair to Naruto, but Sarutobi had to admit that there was a certain hard logic to it. Sasuke was the last, true Uchiha and as such he was a special treasure of the village. He had to be given the best possible chance to not just survive but triumph. I can understand, and so you arranged for Ebisu to train Naruto instead? That's right. And what arrangements did you make for Sakura? Kakashi blinked. Excuse me? Sarutobi frowned at him. Haruno Sakura, your third student. Though she did not reach the finals she does still remain your responsibility.
She cannot perform any missions while her two teammates are committed to training only. I presume you arranged for someone to see to her training as well.
Kakashi looked a bit embarrassed.
Well, actually, she sorts of slipped my mind.
Slipped your mind? Sarutobi echoed.
Well, I was busy planning Sasuke's training and arranging for new security measures, and then I had to track down Ebisu and get him to agree to take in Naruto. I just sort of forgot about her while I was taking care of everything else.
I see, Sarutobi shook his head. Well, right, Hinata's training has been taken over by her father.
It should be easy enough to integrate Sakura onto Team 8 for just a short time.
Kakashi nodded in relief.
Great, was there anything else?
Kakashi, I would like you to answer me one question. What have you taught your students up until the Chunin exams?
What? I want you to tell me specifically what jutsus or techniques you have taught your students in 6 months as their instructor. Well, I mostly work on team building exercises and let them spar with each other a bit. I try and encourage them to find their own way and be self-reliant.
Kakashi said.
Self-reliance and team building are fine lessons, but if they are to truly survive on dangerous missions, they will still need greater skills.
What jutsus or techniques have you taught them? Be specific, Kakashi. He hesitated for a moment before answering.
I taught them how to walk up trees.
Sarutobi waited. And?
Well, technically that's the only technique I showed them.
Sarutobi stared at him in honest wonder. 6 months and he only taught them a single technique and no jutsus?
And the only reason he is making an effort now with Sasuke is due to fear of his opponent. Considering these facts, Sarutobi was left with no choice but to reach a very depressing conclusion. He is unfit to be a Jonin sensei.
He let out a depressed sigh.
Kakashi, I realize I was the one who convinced you to take on a team rather than remain in the Black Ops.
But perhaps I made a mistake.
Kakashi suddenly stood up straight.
What do you mean by that, Hokage-sama?
Kakashi, let us be honest. The fact is you have failed in your duty as a sensei. All 3 of your students are woefully unprepared. There is no shame in admitting that some people are not cut out for teaching and preparing others. Perhaps it would be for the best if you were returned to the ANBU once these exams are complete.
Hokage-sama, please reconsider, he said worriedly.
I admit that perhaps I have been too lax as their instructor. I was used to leading ANBU after all, and I admit I didn't really understand how different leading a squad of genin would be. But the truth is I care about my students, and I give you my word I will work much harder in instructing them. Please do not take my team away from me.
Sarutobi looked at him and thought it over. I will consider it and reach no final decision until the exams are complete.
After all, one or both of them may be promoted, which would alter the situation.
He let out another small sigh.
Very well, Kakashi, you can go. That's it for this reading. Hit like and subscribe for a free ticket pass going to the different worlds of anime fanfiction.
Looking forward to having you on board again.